This is Neil King for Random Acts of Cartooning, and this episode we're going to draw a sketch of Snow White versus Darth Vader. I'm sure you've all been waiting for this. But we're also going to talk about the movies. We're going to call this AMC Save US. So the idea that I'd like to talk about throughout this episode is where I'm coming from as a movie viewer over my life and what's happening now, and how I hope that the movie industry will change their ways and start thinking about keeping the movie industry at least in some way close to what it's been over the last 100 years or so. Now, when I was growing up, in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, there were a variety of places that had theaters across the southern New Jersey area that I grew up in on the East Coast. So all these different companies created places where people could go, and you would see a variety of different types of films. So we're really lucky in my area to have such a plethora of places to go to. And those huge companies had different types of theaters that were everywhere in our area. Now, I know I've heard of many people who live around areas that don't have a lot of movie theaters, but we were really lucky. And I would go to an Eric or to the Strand when I would go to Ocean City, New Jersey, Moreland, and we had Westmont Theater, Echelon Mall had one, Deptford Mall had one. So I was able to go and see lots and lots of movies all the time, really pretty inexpensively for a kid. And it allowed me to really build on my interest of seeing films. Now, cable came around and it took off a lot of, I'm sure, viewers, but it was still really a big event to see a movie. And you wanted to see it larger than you would at home, and everyone was seeing so many of the same movies. There were plenty of small market films, but when I was really young, pretty much everybody saw a lot of the same big movies, and especially back then, there were independent films, and you could see them, but more or less, it was a time that everyone would go, your family would go. There were lots of different types of movies for young kids. Their parents could drop them off at a mall, and the kid would go and watch a movie and be with his friends and maybe go and play pinball and do all this stuff, maybe get a slice of pizza. And it was all pretty inexpensive to go to. And if you went with your family, let's say my family had 5 kids, you could do that. And it's not like it was completely free or anything, but it was much less expensive, and especially for a kid to go see a movie, very affordable, and was one of the things that you could do. And kids really built their interest of seeing films because of their access to those films. Lots of matinee prices, lots of different things that would be affordable for kids to be able to see. Now, if you think about some of the quality of some of those films, the way they're projected, there probably was a far less quality than some of these mega hits that you'll see nowadays. You could really probably see a different print of a film in a lower budget type of a theater than others. Or now it's really evolved into the higher end kind of feeling when you're seeing these films. So it is something that I recognize is different seeing a film nowadays than seeing something back when I was younger, is that there is a super quality to what we're seeing, what everyone is seeing, compared to when I was growing up, that, maybe it wasn't the greatest print of a film, and maybe you would go somewhere in whatever town, and you're really just dealing with a different projection quality And so that's something that we had to understand, and whether we recognized it or not, there was a quality difference to when you used to see films. Now, there was a big movement into the 80s and into the 90s where the multiplexes were coming around, and some of the smaller companies would go away, some of these smaller theaters that I grew up in. So that was happening already. But now, if you think about it, really there are only maybe 2 or 3 that have kind of survived all of this expansion and all of the quality, and it kind of moved away from these small town venues onto something where there's a super quality to what you're seeing. And I'm sure at the very beginning of all of this, everyone was very enthusiastic about their experience, and that they were willing to pay a little bit more money to get a different feeling and quality to what's out there to see, especially when you're seeing special effects and things that a lot of people want to see in a theater with a nice seat and all the different things that come with that. But the reality to that too is that when you're talking about families and you're talking about the industry in itself, that a lot of people are going to start making decisions about what they can go and see, because if they have a family of 4, to go to see a movie is really expensive. If you're going to go on a weekend and at the peak hours, like Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and with how much everything costs. And it's a very difficult thing for families to decide to do, especially since everyone at home now has some of the great, televisions that are oversized, and they actually feel like a movie theater experience, instead of when I was a kid. It's not like anyone had that great of a television either. So you couldn't compare something like that with sound and quality. Where nowadays, it's so much more evident that people are like, well, why am I going to go see that movie in a theater when I could just sit home and have my, all of my snacks and everything here so much cheaper and everything. So it's definitely gotten to this place where you're looking at the amounts of things that you can get at home compared to what they're offering at a movie theater. And because we've gotten rid of all of the competition to see a movie, now you're in a position where you really are put against what a couple companies have decided how much this stuff is going to be. And I think it really has affected the industry and and what's been put out there. But there are different things that have come around that I think show great potential. Now, my feelings are that there really are only 2 plans out there that are dealing with the cost of seeing movies. AMC has their Stubs plan, and Cinemark has their movie club. Now, depending on where you are in the country, you may have another theater that you may go to, but these are the 2 that are in our area. And I believe that the thing about both of them that are good is that they put you onto a monthly plan, and that's what most people do with their television watching. They're all on some different plan, and they were used to paying monthly rates. So I do believe that these 2 plans are something that can really help with dealing with the cost of seeing movies. Now, the plan that I use is the A-list Stubs plan. Stubs plan. And it's about $25 a month. And right now, you're able to see 4 different films a week. And any film that comes out. So it could be, the biggest budget, highest thing that you can do. And their plan is really great. And it's spectacular. I think for Cinemark, their plan is more limited. You see maybe one film a month, or you could see a little bit more than that. But again, they don't have anything for the family, and the A-list does not have anything really for the family. So what I'm hoping is that AMC, especially because they're really the ones who own so many of the movie theaters, and the margin for what they're making is not great already. What they have to do with the production companies and everything that are putting things out, they still haven't been making great money of what they're doing right now. And you can see with all the blockbusters that are coming out that they're not doing well enough in the way the plan is working. People just are not going out, as many people are not going out to see the movies. And I just think it's because of the cost of everything. I think it's very difficult to tell someone who has two kids to go out and spend $100 to go see the newest Snow White or the newest Star Wars movie. I think it's a lot to ask people, especially when they have the possibility of just staying home and waiting for it to be on Disney Plus or on HBO or one of the other things that you could see it, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu or all that stuff. There's plenty of places that you can see films on their big TVs. And I think what it's happened is it's creating a generation of people who don't see the value of seeing film. And, from my point of view, I think it's one of the great things that we have to see, and especially with the quality that's out there. I think it's time for AMC to actually take the lead and see what would happen, even if it's an experiment of something that would last for just a year or two or five, or give it a chance that you could try something different. Okay, so here's my big plan. So AMC Stubs creates an A-list for family. So the idea is this is for a family of four. Again, everybody could be different in this kind of thing, but I'm trying to give this as a basis. So a family of four, that means there's one or two adults, because some families don't have two adults that are going onto something like this. So that means that you would have 2 or 3 kids under the age of 18. Now, to me, if you would be able to do a movie a week for a family like this, I think it makes all of the sense, because I'm able to, as an individual, see 4 movies in a week. And I do see a movie or 2 a week easily. But if you're a family, it's unlikely you're going to see a movie a week. But you could, and that would become some kind of a thing that you would do. So if I have 4 slots to see a movie in a week as an adult, to me it makes sense that if you have a family of 4 who are only going to go to a movie once a week, that's 4 slots that you're allowing them to cover in the same thing. So it winds up being very much the same idea. This way, you're getting a really younger generation seeing more movies that'll come and eat more popcorn and do all the things that you want them to be able to do, to come back again and see a movie again and again, but once a week, and it would change everything. And you're just hoping that once you get people into this type of a plan, that it would make sense monetarily, even to AMC as a conglomerate that's trying to get a whole new generation to see films. Now, for me, I think I compare this to the comic book companies that when I was growing up, I don't think that they took into consideration what was going to happen when they went away from, in the 80s and the 90s, they started going away from the younger generation of who's coming up to read comics. They really stuck with the older generation. And I think it's a very similar thing that happens with the movie industry, is that they're abandoning this next generation coming up, they're sticking with people who want nicer seats, who want to be able to come in and see something, a very high level of quality, and they're kind of not remembering what it was to get me as a young kid interested in seeing a movie. And I would have seen Star Wars 6 times when Star Wars came out because it was very affordable, and I could go see that at any theater that didn't have the highest quality for me to view it in. But I really loved seeing that movie big with my friends, with my family, and it created a movie lover in me that I passed on to my child, who I've always brought to movies all growing up, and we just did it. But a lot of families that are much larger than my family can't afford to do something like that like we would, or would be willing to. I would see a lot of movies that are matinees just so I could afford it. But once I started doing AMC stubs, the A-list, I was able to see all kinds of movies that I wouldn't have been able to see before. I would have probably been like, oh, maybe I'll see that as a matinee, and I'll so that I can see more movies. But the A-list really did allow me, and they have millions of people who are on it, but not as a full A-list person. So I do believe that if you gave people that ability to have their family come in and have something like that, once they're 18, kids would, I believe, go and be an individual and take one of the individual subscriptions like I would have done. Because to pay $25 a month for me makes a lot of sense because I see a lot of movies. But I do believe that the subscription plans are the only way that AMC is going to be able to survive what they're making for these blockbusters or the small films. And the great thing about AMC is they play small market ones. They play A24 movies. I really love the amount of things that I get but being with AMC compared to what I used to get, just as a regular movie goer. And I would have to go into the city to see a specific kind of a film. Like we have a Ritz theaters that were around, and they were the only ones who were playing independent films. But AMC, at least in my area, because they're larger theaters, they play those very tiny little A24 films and things that I would have seen only in the city. And now I get to see everything. I don't think people understand that that's a unique thing to be able to do, is to see the variety of things. So when Oscar time comes around, I would have seen almost every one of the films that were in there, and if not all of them. They may not play them as long as they play the blockbusters, but you have a chance to go see films that you don't usually see. And that's what I'm thinking also with the kids, that I think if you knew that there were going to be a certain amount of kids, the industry would know that now they're going to the movies once a week with their families, that they would put way more money into budgets where they would try to appeal to those kids. They had, when I was growing up, all those Kurt Russell films for Disney and all the things. There were plenty of films that were just small little films that they would put out that I would definitely go to all the time with my friends. So I do believe that there's a real possibility that you could change the way that people see films, but I don't believe it can be through ticket prices that are on a weekend where it's $15 to $20 to go see, Lilo and Stitch. I just don't, or this new, Snow White movie that they had out, and I just don't think that you're willing to take a chance as much as if you're on a subscription plan with a family. So I'm hoping that AMC and the movie industry in itself is understanding where we are as a culture, where it comes to seeing films. And the things that I like about seeing films is that to see it large and especially with all the amazing technology that they have, it's just a much different atmosphere being outside of your home and really enjoying whatever that is, that whether it's a small special effect or a big special effect movie or a small independent film that might have just beautiful images of, some city or some area that it's set in, and that you'll just never get that sense when you're watching that on television at home and you have all the things that are bothering you, that are in the background, somebody's calling or some kind of a thing's going. When you're in a movie theater, it does put you into a different place. And I do believe that if we allow this next generation to miss that, the greatness of what movies are, you're really going to lose that audience, and that eventually it will be something that costs so much to be able to see on a large scale that I think people just won't do it. So I'm hoping again that the idea of a subscription plan for families, as well as I think the adult plan is great. $25 a month to me, even if you're seeing just 2 movies or 3 movies a month, I think it's amazing. And once people that I've known who've gone to that, they just go and see a lot more movies. I think you could bring back even more movies from the past and play them. Because if you get people getting back into that idea of making it an event, and instead of staying at the house a lot, and I mean, a lot of people really do stay home more nowadays because of all the things that you have, whether it's just you're looking at your phone all day and all night, and time just goes by. But you just want to have the spectacle of going to a thing where it's quiet in there. You're focusing in on something, and you're just engulfed in all of the possibilities that the great creative people of our time are producing. I always bring up, I love Wes Anderson and all the characters. Like, I want to see a Wes Anderson movie on a big screen. I don't want to see it on my television, which is bigger, way bigger than the television I grew up with, but still will never be able to compare to being in an incredible Dolby sound, beautiful images that are coming out. And I just think that if you're not doing that as a consumer, we're so willing to pay for so many things nowadays that that I think as a consumer, doing things like that, it just makes everything worthwhile. All the things that you work so hard to do things for yourself or for your family, that seeing movies, I think, is a major thing that adds to your life, and especially as things keep progressing. I'm going to do some separate episodes on the evolution of some of these big budget films, and all, just being a consumer of all this stuff and what it's evolved into and what we have, and sometimes that what we don't recognize as being unique in what we have, and we take things for granted compared to I think when I grew up, some of the things that we had, it was a lot cheaper. And like I always say, that things, to see things back then, in the 70s and the 80s, I mean, the quality was so much less. And I'm not saying that everything should be like that and just make it cheap. I do believe that the technology is here, and all of the possibilities are there, that we'll never go back to, I hope, never go back to some of the cutting corners and things like that. But I do believe that if there's a mass audience for something, that if you get more people paying a certain amount of money compared to a fewer people paying an extraordinary amount of money, I think the business model will be better. And I think that you'll have generationally fans that will be willing to go and see this product instead of just sitting home and thinking that their, massive television is as good as going to see something in a movie theater. I mean, it's just not the same. And that problem and I bring up the comic books again, is that what happened with DC and Marvel is they went for the adults. They don't have any more kids who are going and looking at their stuff. Their books got more and more expensive. They went away from like a less quality of paper that I don't think any kid cares about, to a high gloss, everything super produced, and that they lost those kids. And now Scholastic and some of the other companies that are making things for younger kids, not these, super violent, super sexualized books that they may have, that I love as an adult. They just haven't been making for kids, so they left them. And so now all kids that really, they don't read Superman and Fantastic Four and all the things that I grew up with. They're reading different things from Scholastic, like Dogman, Captain Underpants, all the different types of newer things that kids are that are actually for kids, and parents will buy them for them. And now Marvel's sitting on something where no one's buying their comics anymore, and this older generation is getting too old to read those kind of books either, that they're moving on from them. So that's a whole different thing that I'd like to talk about eventually, about the comic book industry. That I just think that there's great potential in looking at the potential of a new generation of viewers, and not saying, oh, everything's got to go for these people who are going to buy some of the ad money, and we're trying to sell cars, and we're trying to sell all the things with the ads and everything that are marketed towards older audience. And to me, if you don't keep your eye on that young audience, then in a few years you're going to be like, well, I wonder why they're not interested in any of the things we're doing. You got to build this group of younger people that want to see something from Disney, or the Star Wars stuff, and want to stick with them and not just watch their stuff on television, which is fine, but it's not the experience that you can get from film. And every time I go to a film, whether it's a small budget or big budget, I'm just amazed at what it is, and I look at it. I'm thankful that I'm in this generation that has this technology and supports the variety of things. So it's I think when you see the Oscars and you realize that the Oscars are still looking at these independent films, but no one's seen those films because it's too expensive to do that. But I do believe these plans can change things, and you'll have a younger generation that's going out and watching them when they're younger, and then they'll be willing to take a risk to see a movie that's smaller, that may have a great theme that doesn't have all the special effects, and they'll be more sophisticated as a viewer because they see more film, not just the big budget stuff, not just something that you would see in your on your television at home. Because believe me, most people don't rent out or don't look at some of the indies at home, that they need to be out on a bigger screen and see things as they are. So hopefully this is a great idea for AMC. I'm sure no one from AMC will take any of this advice, but I thought it would be cool to do a little evaluation of films while showing you my some of the things that I do, which I just do these sketches, and I make books and stuff, and I sell them too. So I understand trying to get people to look at your things and all these creative things that you do. So I really support AMC. They're like the last ones. They're the ones who this is the only people to go and see films. So I hope they see it as their responsibility to help this next generation be as interested as I am in film. And it's great to be able to have this outlet to be able to show some of the stuff that you do. So I'm pretty much finished up here with this sketch. This is some nice close-ups of it. And I appreciate you watching, so make sure you're subscribing. And I hope to see everyone at the movies really soon.